Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're just settling in. It's now on the hour, and I see people logging into the webinar as we go. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Jim McVetti. I'm part of the communications team at CoderZ, and we're really excited for our second orientation webinar. So we're glad you're here, and we'll be getting underway in just a moment as people start to settle in. And I see we have with us Yossi and Trevor. Gentlemen, welcome. Glad you're here.
Jim, thank you. Thanks for having me here today.
I had no choice. It's my job. Let's see, folks are starting to come in. If you were here last time, you'll remember that audio is closed, but there is a control console for GoToWebinar, which allows you to post questions. In those questions, if you're interested, tell us where you're from. I believe last time we had 4 continents represented. So in this one instance, if you want to just post a question as a statement, tell us where you're from. By now, if you've been on any of my webinars, whether it's for CoderZ, EdWeb, you know I am from Scranton, the only place that matters. And I see Wei is from Atlanta. Anyone else want to pose a question in the form of where you're from? We see Olympia, someone from the Eastern Shore. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I won't be able to name you all because we'll have a few hundred people on this webinar, but I see people from New York, from Hershey, PA, my neighbor, Utah, California. We're glad you're here. Trumbull, Connecticut's represented. Never heard of it, but it sounds amazing. So we're glad you're here. Thanks everyone for joining. We have Maine, Kansas, Northwestern Pennsylvania. Well, I'm Northeastern, so I don't know if we should arm wrestle after this or just maybe play nice. We have Illinois, and we have a question already. Right on. I see you, Patricia. We're going to answer a lot of questions as we go. So the way this webinar is structured, we're going to get underway in just a few minutes as more people settle in. I see the scrolling list of names come in. I'm simply going to moderate. I actually don't know anything other than how to ask questions, and I'd like to ask yours. So Yossi, Trevor, we're counting on you to walk us through what I think will be a really interesting and informative session. Let's talk a little bit about our agenda. And let's see if I can navigate here. So we're going to do some introductions, which we're already getting underway now as we find out where people are from, including Alvarado, Texas, Brooklyn, New York, someone from the wine country. I'll send you my address later if you want to show off how good that wine really is. Our agenda today, introductions. We're going to talk about how to get ready, which we previewed last week. We'll go into some more detail, get you equipped to do that. What happens when you get started? And we have additional previews. We're going to show some videos, and along the way, we're going to answer key questions, including about things like team structure and scoring. So be on the lookout. We will have a pit stop halfway through, a little about halfway through, to go over any questions you might have. So, Yossi, Trevor, quick sound check. Are you guys live and online?
Check 1, 2, testing.
I'm here.
Yossi, you good to go? All right,
I'm good
great.
to go.
Now, let's, folks, as you see me, I'm on the screen. I'm going to fade to the background. My voice will still be here. I'll be asking these guys questions, and that is so I can pay careful attention to your questions coming in. So with that said, it's up to Yossi and to Trevor. Let's talk about first how we get ready. Can one of you take us through some of the first steps that you're going to have to take as our educators get ready for this competition?
Yep, you bet. So step number 1, you've registered for CoderZ League. We're excited to have you on board and have you part of the team. We've got 1 week away. On October 19th, we're starting. So starting the countdown here in the office. We're excited to start this launch. So you've registered for either a team registration, that is 1 class of up to 5 students. You can have a class registration, which is an individual class of up to 30 students, or a school registration, which is a total of 240 students. Here you can make 8 classes of 24, 8 classes of 30, or 10 classes of 24 in that school registration. So you have multiple options there. Step number 1 is going to be creating your own team name. We want you to make this a unique name, a creative name. Use your school mascot. Use something that your team sits down and comes up with together. But this name is going to be how you're represented on the leaderboard, as well as to prepare a team flag. In your My Team profile, which we'll get to in a couple of slides here, you'll have the ability to upload a flag. This can be a photo that you take. This can be something that's drawn through various sketching programs, and you can upload that team flag as you get to the finals and advance in the group stage. That flag will actually be shown on your robot, so you'll have the opportunity to create your own flag as part of the CoderZ process. So getting ready, we've made some updates to the website, and on the next slide, you'll kind of see those on your screen. Jim, can you head over to the next one there?
Am I tracking with you? Do I need to go?
Oh, sorry. Yep, you're there. Nope, you're there. So you've got this, when you log into CoderZ League, on this blue vertical bar on the left-hand side is what we call the navigation bar. You'll have a league, which is the CoderZ League that you're signed up for, as well as either a My Teams or a My Classes page. These may not be live as of today when you log in, but over the next 24 to 48 hours, you'll start to see these populate on your screens, so be prepared for that. As you click on that My Teams page, you'll be able to create your team. So you'll create your team, and on the upper right-hand side, there's 3 little vertical dots, which are really, really tiny here. But as Jim moves on to the next page, you'll be able to invite your students by clicking on those 3 dots. And that's how we will, you'll get your team set up by giving it a great name and clicking on invite students. When you do that, you will get a link that you'll provide your students with a class code. So there's going to be 2 ways to get your students enrolled. Number 1 is with this link that is on the screen, so you can copy and paste that link, share it in your Zoom meeting, share it in your Google Classrooms, or you will have a 5-digit alphanumeric class code. That class code is a custom class code for you to enroll your students. So once you use that class code or click the link, both of those whichever method you use will take you to the CoderZ login page, where here you can join a specific class here. That login page is going to be on play.gocoderz.com. And as you get there, you will see this next slide.
And Trevor, thanks. Sorry, I am trying to keep up. I'm also keeping track of questions. So if you have come in, can I ask a quick question, which is, and if we want to reserve either this for later in the webinar or as a follow-up, one question came up: do students who participated last year need new accounts in this invitation process?
That is a great question. The answer is no. The short answer is no. Students do not need new accounts. They can use existing ones. Everyone, you may have noticed over the weekend, CoderZ experienced some downtime where we made a lot of modifications to the website. That was mostly us on the back end to refactor the database. But with that, there's a lot of positive changes that we are making with that database. So students will be allowed to enroll in multiple classes. So if you have students in your classroom taking the CyberRobotics 101, going through the Amazon CyberRobotics Challenge as part of your class, they can now enroll into a second class using that same email. So they can have multiple accounts in the system using that same email. So we don't anticipate any issues or any duplicates with accounts, any problems along that lines. So when they do join this class here, they will be able to, if they already have an account, they can hit their login here and use their username and password that they've initially created, or sign in with any one of our SSO options. Initially, they're going to hit this Join a Class tab on the right-hand side, which you can see there kind of hiding behind the screen, or on the upper right-hand side of that screen. So hitting that Join a Class will bring you to the next slide, where you can enter that class code. And that's that 5-digit alphanumeric code that was provided when you created that My Team or that My Class. So entering that code will allow them to self-register into that class. And again, they can reuse the same email that they've used for your classroom accounts. If they participated in the spring or even last year, they could reuse those same email addresses and re-log in without any hesitation or issues along that way. So after they create their accounts, from a teacher's perspective, you will see this here with this My Teams page. Your student users will start to populate here in My Team. So you'll see their username, you'll see their points that they've contributed. Obviously, this is going to start off blank until they actually start doing the various missions and lessons and activities in CoderZ. And you'll see the last time they logged in. As well as the teacher can see, there's a little captain designation on the right-hand side. So from the teacher's perspective, teachers will have the ability to designate a team captain. That's by clicking this icon here and setting that up as the specific captain. That's who we're going to look for in the group stage, who is submitting their code for that group stage. If you did purchase multiple teams, multiple classes, or have multiple, or purchase one school account with multiple classes, you will have the ability to create more than one team. So on this next slide, after you create that first team, set that up, you will have the ability to add a new team by hitting this, the flyout arrow next to your My Team name, hitting this Add a Team button, and this will allow you to create your team. Here is, again, you've already created your team name, that's your school name, that's your mascot, whatever you've come up with, but here now you're creating classes underneath that team. So here you've got your team name that's already started there. Go ahead, Jim, move that over to the next one, where you'll have your team name, your organization name, I should say, and then you've got your team name or your class name underneath that, and you can give it a little description if you wanted to. This is my first period geniuses, my third period STEM class, my block B. Whatever you wanted to name that. And then after you create the team, you'll hit that next button on the right-hand side, and it's going to ask you which product that you're going to want to license. So if you did just purchase one league, you'll just see that one league there, a CoderZ League Junior. If you did purchase both, you'll have the option to choose from either A or Z to create the team for that particular league. As you hit done, it will then create the team. You can hit that done button, and again, you'll be there on your My Teams page. So if you do have multiple teams to do that with, it's a pretty straightforward process of, again, creating that team, giving it a name, and then selecting the specific league that you want to add to that class or add to that team.
Trevor, a couple of questions that have come in, and folks, for those of you asking questions about teams and class and school structure, we will cover that a little bit later in the webinar. So if we're not answering you specifically, please know we are tracking questions as fast as we can as they come in. We do have a good large group on this webinar, so we're really excited about that. We will make a point of answering all your questions. The video should have been released from last webinar. I apologize if it has not been forwarded to you in your inbox. So our team on the back end will make sure that that past webinar and today's will be up pronto. So please be aware. Now, one question I do want to address, because I think it's timely, which is when can teams start to be created? Is it after the competition begins on October 19th?
Within the next few days, I would say the next 24 to 48 hours. Yossi, can you give me a thumbs up or a nod there? Yeah, so right now, when you log in, you'll just see the league icon there on your Learning Center on that navigation bar, that blue vertical bar on the left-hand side, you'll see league. Below that will be classes, but in addition, there will be a teams icon there. And again, that'll pop up on your accounts over the next couple of days, and that's where you'll okay. Set up your team accounts.
So be on the lookout, folks, for your invitation to set up your teams in the next 24, 48 hours. In addition, one question came up that might be relevant for a few folks out there is, given the numeric code, is an email required of every participant to join a team?
That is a great question. I believe an email is required in order to register for CoderZ. Students, if they do not have an email, they can put in their teacher's email. We are only using that email. Essentially, we don't email students directly, but we do use that email for a password reset. So a student does forget their username and password for whatever reason, on that login page on that home screen, there's a reset password button, which automatically sends an email to that email address that the student registered for. Okay. So yes, they have to enter one. However, it is only used for password reset, and it does not have to be, I guess if they don't have their own individual email, this can be a parent email, this can be a teacher email.
Okay, so part of the update this week also has been that folks may have logged into CoderZ and not yet seen League, even though they've registered, that's what will show up on their console in the next couple of days. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, we made some major updates to the website over the weekend. This is going to enable a lot of the new interface for CoderZ League. It's created a new administrator dashboard. It's going to allow students to enroll in multiple classes, so that will prevent any email taken error messages that students may have seen. It will prevent any expired accounts email messages that students may have seen. So this has been a much needed kind of restructure, refactoring of that database that may not have been as timely as we could have, but we wanted to make sure it was available before the league started and there were no login issues and student issues along the way.
Yes, and my understanding is that we basically just pumped Red Bull and oxygen into that room so that the process would make the competition, once it launches officially, operate hyper fast. So I think that's a good sign. There are some additional questions coming up about
Jim,
teams.
can I comment on that as well? Yeah, and all these features will make it much easier for teachers to manage their classrooms as well. And I got a note that the webinar is released. It is on the I guess it is available on the webinar page. Sorry, the CoderZ League page, where you can go to the schedule and see the current released webinar. So that's going to be the first two, and the third one will be posted on the today's date.
Okay, great. Great. Keep the questions coming, folks. We're going to try and answer them in general ways here. If you have specific technical questions, I am assigning them to our facilitators in the background. So know that we are working on it for you. So thanks. Okay, Trevor, let's keep it going.
Okay, where did I leave off? So essentially, once your team is created, this is what you as a teacher are going to see, as well as what your students are going to see on their profile as well. They'll see they're my team. They'll see they're part of their team. This top left icon there, that flag icon, is going to be your team flag. Again, that's where you can upload your photo, upload a design that your team has created, make that your team flag. Below that is going to be your overall standing. This is a cumulative score based on the preliminary totals, your class rank, how well you're doing compared to other classes. And then you'll also see individual statistics for each one of the CoderZ League Junior Final Challenges. So you'll see your overall ranking in each one of the league games. You can choose to focus on one of these leagues. You can choose to have some students focus on just one of these leagues and some students focus on all of the or some of the other leagues, or you could have all of them kind of attempt each one of them and see what niche they fit into best. So no right or wrong answer there. It's going to be up to you as the teacher, what works best for you and kind of the best fit for your students, what they're liking and what they're enjoying most as part of CoderZ League.
Okay, and so part of the refresh that folks will see unfolding will help for easier navigation. So right now, if you have some confusion about what you see on your console, know that the update is pending and it's on the way. Let me kick through other questions here. Also, I'm pleased to report that our professional development team is updating the teacher guide as well. So it will reflect all of the enhanced navigation as well as the teacher guides. I will say one point is that a question came up, do you need access to the courses in advance in order to be competitive? And that is actually not the case. You can come in totally cold. You'll have ample time to poke around, test things out, use the teacher's guide. You will have access to course materials and you can still be competitive. So please bear that in mind. Okay, so we're back to the technical here with the teams page. Should I keep it going, Trevor?
Yep, keep it going.
Okay, we're at a pit stop now. Let's see. I'm going to take a quick moment here, folks. I'm going to pause and tick through some of the questions.
Yeah. I do want to elaborate on that teacher's guide. That is going to be a really good resource. That's probably going to be the best resource for teachers in the classroom to use as a guide and a knowledge base for how to kind of manage the classroom, how to run their classroom. It's going to contain additional data. For example, one of the CoderZ League Pro missions is called Line on Mars, and in that teacher's guide, it's going to describe Line on Mars and the rules and the objective of that challenge. but it also gives you hints and tips and tricks. So the line on Mars, essentially you're following a line on the planet Mars, but it's going to reference some various activities. So potentially Robotics 102, the line following activity would be a good training course or a training lesson for that line on Mars final challenge. So it kind of makes those references to the various lessons or activities in the various curriculum topics.
Okay, and those teachers will have access to missions and challenges, right?
They will, yes.
Okay, great.
Something we're going to share in a couple more slides, so I'm kind of holding off on that formal announcement just yet.
Okay, great. Let's see. One question about experience level again came up. If they have no experience, can they be part of the pro level in your opinion, Trevor?
Certainly, there will be a learning curve there. The pro level is challenging. We released it to our organization just to see how well our people did, and it was not necessarily the technical team; it was everybody in the organization got the chance to open up the various activities and go through them. So, some of our team did well. Some of our team needed some help along the way, but everybody who participated did enjoy it and kind of did get through some aspects of things. So certainly no experience is necessary. We encourage everybody to kind of dive in and try.
Okay, great. Okay, folks, keep those questions coming. We are assigning them to our facilitators in the background. So if you hear from us either directly in a chat session, or I'll try and answer them here as the group as well. And again, we will go through and notate all of these as soon as the session closes today for further follow-up. So let's see what's next. I think we're going to do a preview. Is that right, Yossi?
For one of the games right now, never seen before by a live audience, a preview, a video of one of the games in CoderZ League, brand new, never watched before. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you like it.
All right, so if our moderator in the background I will stop showing the screen here, and we're going to have Anat, who works in the background, load this preview video. Anat, can you take care of that for us? Here we go.
High in the skies of planet Disco, way up in the heavens, magic blocks glow when they are touched. Your goal is to earn as many points as possible before reaching the target. Every tile has two opposing signs. Driving over a tile causes it to flip between the signs. Reaching the target ends the level. Falling off the grid is not something you want to get used to. One recommended tactic is to sketch the level on paper and try to draw the optimal path for the robot. There is always a simple solution, but a more calculated one will yield better results.
So I think the update is coming along pretty nicely. Some of these challenges are really going to show up strong, and I think one of the things that we're excited about is the high attention to graphics and the immersive experience that you're developing. So I think this bodes well for our future programmers.
Yeah, so what do we have here? So Disco Blocks is a game you just witnessed. And this video that you watched, we're gonna have a minute video introducing every single game in the league. So a total of 10 games, 8 which will be released on the preliminaries, and 2 more when we get to the group stage, as they are revealed. Those minute videos' job is to kind of give a background of what the challenge is about, and also give small hints about as of how should the students approach those challenges. And now we just witnessed Disco Blocks, which is a game on the Junior League, also introducing for the first time ever Zappy, our brand new robot. He's cute, he's fun, and so what Zappy's doing on Planet Disco is trying to collect as many points as he can, and the students the student's job here is to create a very simple code, but the real challenge here is the math problem behind it. So the coding is just the means where they solve the challenge, and math is really at the center of this specific challenge. As promised when we've done the last webinar, that we really wanted different challenges to focus on different things so that students anywhere could enjoy different stuff. So if you have a student that's really keen on math, then this is the challenge for that student. They would have a chance to kind of come up with crazy solutions. And this is one of those games that, you know, when you just look at it in a glance, it seems pretty simple. Oh, so I'll just ride on the pluses and then I'll get the optimal solution. But you would be amazed at how many possible solutions there are to any mission, and especially the challenge of disco blocks. And we really think that this challenge is super special, especially for those students who really like math.
And do you think, Yossi and Trevor, as we go through these previews, I think some folks are wondering at what level is it appropriate for League versus Pro? And that question's come up once before. So, for example, can a ninth grade student still find joy in CoderZ League Junior, which might skew a little younger? But then also, same kind of question is, do you have any upper elementary kids participating in the league?
So do you want to answer that, Trevor?
Yeah, certainly, both of us can, but the answer is yes to both. Essentially, we kind of think as CoderZ League Pro as kind of the junior varsity team, and the CoderZ League Junior being the junior varsity team, and CoderZ League Pro being the varsity team. So we're not going to shy away some elementary school students who want to participate in CoderZ League Pro if they're third or fourth graders. We're certainly going to encourage them to participate, as well as any middle schoolers that may want to be in CoderZ League Pro, or even any high schoolers that may be new to coding and want to experience CoderZ League Junior. So, we want to extend that kind of that welcome invitation. However, keep in mind, most of CoderZ League Junior is going to be the lower level, that upper level elementary or lower level middle school, as well as the CoderZ League Pro is going to be the upper middle school and the high school level. So keep that in mind. That's who you're going to be participating against and competing against. So you may have some ninth graders competing against some fifth graders, but again, it's going to be all experience level, and if that's what your ninth graders are comfortable coding, that's what we would recommend that you participate in.
Okay, and some of those fifth graders are going to show up really strong. So
they are.
Yeah, so it's really about you as educators, it sounds like, assessing student interest, student experience, and motivation. How much time do you think is required to move through one of these rounds or one of these missions? Can you talk a little bit about the time commitment that's anticipated?
That is another great question. I've asked this quite a bit, actually, how much time is required for CoderZ League, and that's a tough question for me to answer. I can tell you how long it would take to complete a mission, but that may not be the right answer for how long is it going to, how much commitment is needed. So certainly a user can participate for 1 to 2 hours a week, even 1 to 2 hours a day, and be competitive in CoderZ League. But you're also competing against other students, other schools, other classes and teams who may be putting in 2 hours of coding, and they may be putting in 3 hours of coding. So your 1 hour of coding compared to other schools out there may not, may be enough to get you on a scoreboard and on a leaderboard and advance to a next round. But at the same time, there may be other students that are doing a little bit more. And think of it as training and think of it as practice. The more practice you put in, the better you're going to be in those final challenges and final missions.
And one of the things we learned in our last webinar, which is now on our YouTube channel, is that you can carve up activities and missions inside a packet. Sorry, it's my language. I'm not a technical person, and actually assign them different missions. So I guess typically we see every team has a captain, and then can teachers kind of carve out where students are going to focus from one activity to the next?
Yeah, certainly. You know, the activities are designed so each core activity, whether it's in CoderZ League Junior or CoderZ League Pro, has kind of a topic or a skill associated with it. You know, you may have noticed that there's a lasers versus balloons, which uses some ultrasonic sensors to detect, you know, your objects in front of you and uses your other sensors. So if students are good with sensors, they may want to try that activity. You know, you notice the disco blocks game, which is pretty cool. That's probably my favorite. You know, that's got a lot of math functions in there, and you know, assessing risk versus reward. Do I want to hit this -40 in order to get the +50? And kind of assessing things that way. So it's really up to your students. Let them, you know, expose them to everything, let them try everything and see what best fits for your students. Once you do that, then you may find some students just want to work in disco golf, some student or disco block. Some students may just want to work in the golf mission. Some students may just want to do lasers versus balloons. So all students don't need to do all activities. They certainly can if they want to, but we've kind of mapped it so each one has a different skill, and your students that, you know, may find that they excel in some skills better than others.
Okay, right on, right on. One structural question that came up is there's an educator who works with students from a range of schools but wants to create his own team. He's from India, so we're very happy to have yet another country represented. Any restriction? Folks do not have to be residing in the same building. So long as they're part of a team, they're good to go. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, yes. You know, obviously, we don't want you to bring in a class of ringers and you know, just your engineering experts. So obviously, we'd want that to be a class of students that working to get together and collaboratively as a team. But yes, certainly.
Yeah, right on. Well said. Well said. So another question came up about, let's see, I'm ticking through here, guys. Someone signed up as a school and they have 8 separate teams. So do they create a flag for the school or a flag for each of the teams?
So
Yossi,
obviously, the competition is revolved around the teams. So as we see it, if there's a school that has 8 teams, for example, each individual team's job is to do as well as possible. And you know, they could go and have a flag that is the same for every team, but from how we see it, a lot of those teams are going to compete against each other as well, since they're in the same region. So individuality inside every single team is important. So we did have the option for every single team to have a different name and a different flag. So if I'm team 2A from a certain school, and then there's team 2B from the same school, so each of those teams can have a different name, a different flag, and they will also might get a chance where they play against each other in the competition. So it's important for them to represent themselves.
Okay, so if you have multiple teams within a school, go ahead and yes, create your own flag. Specifications will be included in that communication coming out in the next 24 to 48 hours. It is as simple as uploading an image, and we'll give you the specs in terms of resolution, file size as well. So it should be pretty straightforward, and that is forthcoming. So I hope that answered that question. I understand, Yossi, we have another preview coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm excited.
And you're excited to show us what I understand is going to be Space Chase.
Right, but don't spoil it.
Okay, everyone, unhear what I just said. Apparently, let's have our facilitator in the background give us a preview of Space Chase.
The SS Courageous has yet to let us down. Its voyages through the far reaches of the galaxy have given us new hope. In this challenge, the pilotless SS Courageous is entering an asteroid field. Program the spacecraft to travel as far as possible before time runs out. Hitting an asteroid slows the ship down. Booster packs give it valuable energy that can be used to blast asteroids and to activate the hyperdrive. The farther the Courageous flies, the more points you get. Ultrasonic and color sensors are key to detecting asteroids and booster packs. Build a code that utilizes both sensors to find safe passage through the asteroid field. The documentation feature can help you find the instructions you need.
It's looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this. So we're going intergalactic with this competition. And again, I think the graphics are showing up pretty strong.
Yeah, so
What else do you want to tell
Space
us about
Chase.
this, Joe?
Yeah, so Space Chase, first time we're watching a full preview of one of the pro games. So this is coming up strong from the Pro League. We've already seen on the last webinar RoboGolf on Junior, and we've just saw the premiere for Disco Blocks also on Junior, but now Space Chase is one of the games on the Pro League. So Space Chase is a game where the team has to control a robot, or more correctly, a spaceship flying through space. And on the surface, it seems pretty simple. You drive the spaceship and you control it. It needs to navigate through asteroids and booster packs and get as much energy as possible from the booster packs, and then it can use this energy to either use boost to drive faster or use the laser to blast asteroids. So the mission here it seems pretty simple, but as anyone who's ever wrote a code knows, those type of missions can be very simple, but to create a very simple solution that gets you a nice score. But if you really want to get this high level that place you on the leaderboard and get you a bunch of points, which we'll go over in a minute, then you'll have to write something a bit more complicated. And as we said, this is a Pro League, so the students now have a chance to write this either on Blockly or Python. And you can create those very, very convoluted loops that are just good for every situation in a way that no matter what happens, the spaceship has an optimal solution built into it, and then it gets the furthest possible. And when we tested this internally, Spacious was one of those games that someone got to a certain distance, and then he said like, yeah, that's probably as far as you can go, and then someone blasted that record off the roof. So it's super exciting, and we really tried to build every single challenge as something that is, any student can write a solution, but it really takes hard work to create a great solution. And Space Chase is as exciting as it gets.
Yeah, and with that, you guys may notice kind of down at the bottom center of that Space Chase mission there. I know it's really exciting to watch the commander robot and see it hit those fuel cells and the packs and the asteroids. But down at the bottom center, there's a lot of information that you can use to help program the robot. So there's a distance sensor showing you how far away from an object you are. There's a color sensor showing the various colors of the object and showing your speed. So you can use that information, factor that into your code to create a code that will make your space mission or space vessel go as long as you possibly can. I do have a spoiler that there will be no Baby Yoda at the end of this mission. There's no little creatures.
Due to copyright issues, no other reason.
If only. We all need a little more Baby Yoda in our lives, if you ask me. Now, students won't be able to access the training center until the 19th, but videos from the YouTube channel, plus some guidelines that we provided in our webinar just prior to this, which we can resend, is really about shaping your team structure, including captain, compliance officer, researcher, and talking through the different challenges that'll be put forward to them. So while they won't actually have access until the 19th, if you are in pre-planning mode, we would suggest you start talking about some of the roles that your team's going to play, and start talking about things like team name, emblem, and get them excited in advance of the 19th.
Strategize.
Yeah, and start strategizing for sure, for sure. I don't believe one technical question came up, which is, can teachers turn off access so that students aren't channeling their energy into the competition during structured school time? And I don't believe we can turn off and on access at any given time. Is that right?
That is correct. I guess that's both a pro and a con. So your students can access CoderZ from anywhere, but unfortunately they can do it from class and have their attention diverted from you to somewhere else. So
Okay, so sorry folks, it's I guess one of the downsides to making something kind of awesome. So we'll consider that for future development though, for sure. I believe I'm working through some of the questions. This is intended to be an informational webinar, so please keep them coming. Thank you for that. And again, we will be much faster about turning around this webinar for review. If you had any issues with video or what have you, do just let us know. Question came up about accessing CoderZ, the curriculum versus CoderZ League, and yes, they are in fact very different. If you've registered for CoderZ as part of your curriculum for classrooms, electives, after school clubs, that is designed for one specific use case, which is teaching coding and robotics. The League is a separate registration process, but if you need help with that, please just email into our support group. Another question's come up about the refactoring process that we did on the back end in order to provide updates. So Yossi, one question you may want to take back to your team is, if some of that data has been cleared, will it be recovered? And I don't know if we have the answer for that right now based on the update, but please know, folks, that we are looking into that issue as we speak.
Jim, the answer is yes. So, essentially all of the student information is saved in the database. We've kind of remapped and restructured the database to point from, various directions. So we still have all of that data. We are in the process of updating that and migrating database A to database B, if you will, or student account A or student account B. So yes, right now it may look like all of your student history is lost, all of their completed missions are gone. Don't worry, they will get it back. It's all still there. We just need to remap it to those students. So that will be back in the next day or 24 hours or so.
I do want to clarify something. There's a thing that's called due to privacy issues, some accounts can expire. So if, for example, a student hasn't logged into CoderZ for a year or some time, then we delete everything that we have on the student, just because that's the regulations. Since if we just save all the data we have on every single student that ever played on CoderZ, then we're violating the regulations regarding safe data usage. So if a student hasn't logged in for a long period of time, we do actually remove some of the data we have on that student.
It's a good point, and we do comply with student privacy pledge as well as other FERPA and COPA requirements, as well as I believe GDPR, since we are a global competition. So certainly something to be mindful of. A question about the challenges and the missions, given Yossi that we've been previewing a couple of what look like really stellar and, dare I say, interstellar challenges, are they time bound? And if you recall from last week's information session, we have preliminaries move into group stage. Everybody in the preliminary round will move into the group stage at the same time. They'll be seeded based on their code. Now, sometimes your scoring is based on how quickly you're able to execute a given mission, but you're all bound by that same deadline that will be provided to you inside the competition. So I hope that answers the question about things being time-bound or real-time. I guess in a sense, you're not presented with a challenge and having to code in real time. You will have the option to strategize, to plan, and even refine your code. Yossi and Trevor, is that right?
it's also important to note some of the teachers are very seems like they're very scared about how things happen with everything that has to do with submission and the preliminaries. Like, how do I submit? Can I resubmit? Anytime any student plays a challenge in the preliminaries, they submit their code. So all the students can work on a challenge at their free time. Nothing that you do can ruin, quote unquote, for your team. Since the highest score from any teammate is the one taken, anyone can try out the challenges. The highest score is the one registered. And as we said, once all the content opens up, they can do any challenge they want at any given time until preliminaries are over.
And so you're going to have kids working, well, if they're anything like my 13-year-old, it could be anytime, day or night, except for when he's sleeping until 11 a.m. on the weekends. Is that right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
he's an early bird.
No, I guess I meant to say my son is not an early bird like most teenagers. So yes, the competition is accessible and your students can work on it outside of your traditional school days or hours. So they will be free to access it during non-school hours. Okay, let's see. One other question came up, which is, can one student be part of two separate teams?
I think the answer is technically yes. A student can be part of two separate classes or two separate teams. We do encourage that student to only, if it's CoderZ League Junior, we want them to be on one class for CoderZ League Junior. So yes, they can participate in CoderZ League Junior as well as participate in CoderZ League Pro. We would kind of recommend that they only sign up for one class in each league rather than multiple classes in the same league, if that makes sense. We do want them just to be counted once as part of each individual league.
Yeah, they're only allowed to be at one specific team for a single league. So if the student they can participate in both pro and junior, but not for two teams in junior or two teams in pro.
Okay, great. That makes sense. Thanks. All right, let's keep it going, folks. We're going to wrap up hopefully on the hour, but we will try and leave time for additional questions as they come in. We're doing our best. I think we've fielded something on the order of 75 questions or so we're doing pretty well here. Okay, so let's talk about what happens next. Coming October 19th, what is going to happen?
Yeah, so Yossi and I kind of both talked about that internal competition that we had, or the internal unlocking of the CoderZ missions and having all of the CoderZ team participate and do these missions. One of the things that we learned is without that background knowledge, it's very, very challenging to be able to complete these missions successfully. So what we're going to do is we are going to give all users free access to all of the Learning Center, the competition packs or the classroom packs in the Learning Center on October 19th for 2 full weeks. So that everybody who has purchased CoderZ League will get access to each one of these curriculum packs until October 31st. If you did pay for these as part of your purchase, we will extend that 2 weeks into November. So you will get 2 more weeks of access than you normally did. So everybody's going to get 2 weeks of free access to our curriculum packs, as well as we've come up with a training pack or an additional training pack associated with those challenge scenes. So that will be available to accounts as well. So that's going to happen on October 19th, where you'll get access to those training packs, and then we are going to open the preliminary stage on October 26th. Now that does kind of compress that timeline from 4 weeks to 3 weeks, but that's still enough time for students to kind of go through, and it should be more than enough time for them to get good scores and be able to go through each one of those preliminary missions and preliminary final challenges.
Okay, so let's recap that a little bit. October 19th, access is granted. That includes access to courses with specific missions that will help your students prepare for league challenges. So we are opening up additional resources so that your students can have more opportunities to learn and engage and strategize around their code. And we've made accommodations for those of you who have already acquired the bundle as well. So the preliminary stage now runs October 26th through the 13th, at which point you'll be able to submit and refine your code. And do I understand correctly that it's the final submission before deadline is what leads to the scoring and ranking for group stages? Is that correct?
Yes. On the group
Okay.
stage and on the playoffs, there's a captain who is the one who submits the code, and that captain, the last code they send, he or she sends, that's the one that matters. Since we want to give the chance to, you know, if they sent something and then they found a better solution, then they have a chance to resend it until time expires to send the code.
And how many missions and challenges are in that preliminary stage?
I was talking about the group stage on the playoffs. On the preliminary
yes, I know
stage,
that's what you're talking about, but a question, forgive me, a question came in about the preliminary stage.
so preliminary has 4 games. Every game has a challenge and some missions, a varying amount of missions depending on how complicated the challenge is.
Okay, all right, right on. Great. So a little bit of a review here about moving into the group stage. So as all of you know who've ever listened to me on a webinar, I am from the Scranton, Pennsylvania area, the global headquarters of, well, nothing, but I'm still proud of being from Scranton. That being said, if we have multiple teams from within my school, will we be placed into the same group? Because one of the concerns is I'm going to be eliminating my peer groups. Also, question is, if you have international teams who may be representing, maybe the only representative from their country, how will they be organized in groups? Can you talk a little bit about the organization of that group stage and where teams get assigned?
It will be random based on your score during the preliminary stages. You know, in a couple of slides, you'll get into the more details on scoring, how that works. For the preliminary, I want to call it group stage, but the preliminary preliminary challenges, and then the kind of the final challenges of those preliminaries. So you're going to get a final score for a total preliminaries, and that score is going to be how you're ranked for that group stage, and that's all going to be random. So potentially you could be in the same group where you're competing against your classmates to earn a top 2 spot in the group, or potentially you could be in different groups competing against others where you're cheering each other on. So it's again going to be completely, I don't want to say random, but it's going to be based on your score. How well you do during those preliminary stages is where you're going to be ranked in that group stage.
Okay, great. And one point of note is if you have signed up as a class of 30 or 2 classes of, let's say a class of 30, you cannot then disassemble that into teams of 5. That is a function of how you registered for the league. If you want to revisit that registration from class and move into individual teams, we can help you with that. But there is no function within there to change the nature of your registration. But do let us know if we can somehow support you in that change. You mentioned that there's a little more information to follow. Trevor, I'm going to advance this through next to about how scoring works. Do you guys want to start to talk about that?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of questions after and on the last webinar regarding how scoring works. It seems like a lot of you teachers are already strategizing and thinking about how you're gonna sort things out with the students. And also there's a very important issue that we're gonna address regarding small teams, which are teams of up to 5 students, versus classes, which are teams of up to 30 students. And a lot of you are concerned about, wait, so if I have a team of 5 students, am I going up against a class of 30? Like, I don't have a chance. What's going on? So I'm going to address exactly this issue and also explain how score works. So it's pretty simple. So we have a very simple table here that says how scoring works. So if you see the table on the screen, the scoring, and I'm talking about preliminaries, is divided into two: missions and challenges. Missions are those very are those I want to say like those tasks are those lessons that have score that students complete before doing the challenge. They are not bound to do them, but we really encourage them to do them, since one of the things that we've put in the missions are kind of those hints as of how to solve the challenge. If, for example, one of the challenges requires you to use a certain sensor, then one of the missions is going to tackle this exact issue, and the students who have completed those missions are going to get to the challenges better prepared. But you always have those students who just don't need those tutorials, so they're totally skippable. So every mission can give a single student for a single mission up to 100 points. Some of the missions have different ways to solve them, and the more simple ones give lower score, and the more complicated ones can give a higher score, depending on time, depending on how much stuff you with your robot, depending on runtime. There are some stuff that are taking into place when calculating the user score. So as I said, every student can complete every single mission and give up to 100 points to their team. Meaning, for a single mission, if I have 5 students, they can get up to 500 points for that single mission. And if I have 20 students, I can get up to 2,000. And I'm going to address this issue on the next slide. And the challenge is completely different. The challenge, we only have a total of 4 challenges for the preliminaries, 1 for each game. And every challenge has a leaderboard for itself, meaning we just looked at disco blocks. We did not see the challenge, obviously, because we don't want to spoil it, so that students that did not participate in the webinar would have the same chance. So there's going to be a challenge, and they have up until preliminaries are over to submit solutions to this challenge. The first place on every team is going to represent their team. So if, for example, I have 10 students that all completed the disco blocks challenge, and then they all got different score, and the highest one got 2,000 points on this challenge, the score of 2,000. Then he's going to be the one representing their team. We're going to take the first place from every team and put them on a leaderboard. Then top 5 of that leaderboard, when preliminaries are over, are going to get a bonus. So if my team has a representative that's 3rd place on the leaderboard, then that representative is gonna reward that team 3,000 points. I repeat, 3,000 points. First place, 7,500. Second place, 5,000, and so on. It's on the table. Why is it so important? It's super important, since challenges, as we see them, are kind of the thing that could really turn the tables in favor of the smaller teams. And if you move on to the next slide, then we're going to show a very simple calculation of how a team that has only 5 students can match up against a team with more students and get a better score just by getting a better place on the challenges. So Jim, if you move on to the next slide, we're going to see how this calculation takes place. So if, for example, there's a team A, Robo Pandas, which is a team of 20 students, against team B called the Velociraptors. They're both in the same region. One has 5 students, one has 20 students. So there are 2 differences. One is that one has 20 students and the other one has 5, and the second one is that one has done better on the challenges. And as I said, we really believe that since small teams are going to have probably better coordination and teamwork, since they are usually classmates or friends or or they have a better chance of collecting all of their minds into a single solution, they can really laser focus themselves on a single challenge and get a very high placement on the challenge, and then get a higher score. So imagine if the Velociraptors get second place in 2 challenges, they already get a bonus of 10,000 points for those challenges only, thus defeating the RoboPandas in their score by 1,000 points. So even if the RoboPandas have more students, churning out those missions and doing a lot of missions, the Velociraptors are not out of they're not out of it. They can still have a decent chance, and those challenges are really their way to kind of cheat into a higher seed. And I think for a team of 20 students, focusing on a challenge or 2 challenges is way harder to create, a collaborated solution against a team of 5 students who are like, sitting in the same room. Okay, all our job is to get the best possible solution for disco blocks, and then they sit together and figure out a solution. They get a ton of points and they win the thing. So that's how scoring works. It sounds complicated at first, but it's pretty simple.
And what's interesting, Yossi, is that you've pointed out there are ways for small teams to be highly competitive, and part of the process in advance of the prelims is to meet with your team and say, okay, folks, we're a class of 20. We're all on Team A, the RoboPandas. Let's strategize how we make sure everyone's involved and contributing, and we amass a strong score. But there might be a different strategy for a smaller team of 5, or in some cases, I believe we even had an individual show up and represent themselves as a team, and that kid showed up really strong. So your strategy might be to go a little bit deeper on certain missions to drive your acquisition of points. And then again, if you have an individual show up on the leaderboard, that's a big deal for your team. Are there deadlines per game inside the preliminaries, or is it more about that final submission date?
There are no deadlines for every single game. The only deadline is when preliminaries are over in November 13, is when kind of it shuts, the leaderboard is locked, and we go over the leaderboards and reward the teams on the top 5 spots on every single challenge. The points, the missions are calculated automatically, so it will already be seen on the leaderboard. And then the leaderboard will be updated with a bonus that the top 5 teams on every single challenge got. And then they will receive their final seed on the preliminaries, thus knowing which group they are in the group stage. Another question that a lot of you has asked is, will I be put in this group or this group? The group stage is decided solely by the seeding of the preliminaries. So if I'm first place, I'll be in group number 1. And I will be grouped with teams that are better for me, meaning group number, I'll be with the seed number 1, seed number 16, seed number 30, seed number 1, seed number 16, seed, Trevor, help me.
1, 16, 32, and 64.
Yeah. And that's how it's gonna work. And then this goes on until seed number 2, 3, 4, and so on. So as I said, we are not the one deciding the groups. It's solely decided by how well you've done on the preliminaries.
Yep.
Okay,
And again, we see a lot of that team registration, whether it's a Girls Who Code group or a How Girls Code or FLL teams. So we do want to make sure that each one of those teams does have an equal opportunity to earn a good spot or earn a good ranking as we progress to those group stages. So with this modified scoring version that we've come up with, I think this gives everybody an equal opportunity, whether you're a small organization of 5 or a larger class of 20, 25 students.
Right on. Okay, very good. Let's see, we're coming up on the hour. Some of you have held on. Actually, most of you have held on over the hour, so I really appreciate that. Some of you have had to duck out early or are preparing to duck out, we are going to post this webinar in the next 48 hours, along with that very important informational email that will help summarize a lot of this information for you and how to access it going forward. Let's talk about getting support. One of the features we've added going forward is greater access and support via our team. So be on the lookout for information related to office hours for educators. At this point, we do not have a Q&A session designed for students, although I suppose we could look into that. What we don't want to do is reveal any information that would empower students to have an unfair advantage. That being said, for educators, we are opening office hours on Mondays, so starting next week, where you can just join in. You may have to be in a queue and wait your turn, but we will make that available to you. If you have a pressing need, you can also schedule a one-to-one support session. That information will come out in the email that we're sending this week, but we're going to make office hours available. If you just want to put that on your calendar and say, hey, I want to check in, maybe listen in to some other questions that are happening. Or if you have a specific pressing need, you can schedule a one-on-one session with our team, probably with Trevor or Yossi here on the call.
And that'll likely
anything you want to add to that,
from
Yossi or Trevor?
9 a.m. to 10 a.m. weekdays.
Okay, Eastern time, is that right?
Yeah, correct, Eastern time.
Okay, and that's to accommodate some of our folks who are GMT plus many hours, meaning they're in Middle East, Africa, or Asia. And so we're trying to find a time that will work. We do recognize that for our educators on the West Coast, that's pretty early. That's why we do have that option for one-to-one support sessions. So let's see. Oh, and that actually brings up a question is for the deadline of submission on code, will you note the time zone as well in that deadline?
Essentially, yes, the deadlines are going to be based off of Eastern time. So we're going to say you need to submit your code by this date at midnight. That means midnight Eastern time. So if that means 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. Pacific time, it would be earlier than that if you're in a European time zone.
Okay. Okay, great. Let's see. You do have time to register. Some of you have been listening in, still trying to figure out if this is the right move for you. We think it is. We're pretty excited. You've seen the previews here. You still have a chance to register up through and including November 2nd. You simply go to CoderZLeague.com/register. A quick check through our questions, and we'll see if anything else comes up. One question that comes up as we wrap up in terms of the missions and challenges differing between preliminary and group stages. Can you talk a little bit about the difference in missions and challenges between preliminary and group?
We hesitate on releasing information on the group stage challenge. It is just going to be one final challenge. It is going to be a multiplayer challenge. So you'll be writing your code once you see that challenge to compete against another robot. So your team really needs to strategize. You need to think about what the best strategy is, whether to be offensive and score a lot of points, whether it be defensive and try to stay, you try to last the longest. So there'll be a lot of strategies there. Do your best, work as a team, collaborate together, have each student write various snippets of code. Maybe some write some offensive code, maybe some write some defensive code, have them all come together as a group. And their captain will submit a final version. We do plan on allowing you to test your code against our virtual robot. You can see how well you compete against Yossi's coded robot. So you will get the opportunity to kind of practice that code or work that against another robot. But then at that deadline, whenever you can submit your final code, whatever that final code is submitted by your team member, that could be at 9 a.m. in the morning, that could be at 11:59 p.m. Whenever that's your teammate, your captain submits that code, that's going to be the version that we use as your submitted final version for that group stage.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that the challenge for playoffs and group stage is for both pro and junior those challenges are extremely difficult. Those challenges are made to take the team's effort to the max. Where when the 4 challenges on the preliminaries are more of a taste, and they are awesome and amazing, and they're a lot of fun, but they're just not as challenging as those final challenges. The final challenges will need a team, all the team's brains working on a solution, working hard, using their teachers as advisors to think of a strategy to win, no matter what the opposing team's going to try to pull off.
Okay, good, right on. So can we just do a quick recap of the timings here? So I think what I'll do, if you'll just allow me to sneak back to a slide, because this is pretty important. And Trevor or Yossi, can you just recap the timing, because that question's coming up as people are starting to hop off the webinar, about when access is provided and the timings for preliminary moving into group stage.
Yeah, so again, on October 19th is when we are going to unlock CoderZ League to your students. They will have access to these preliminary challenges, and then on the 26th is when their initial preliminary stages will open. So that'll be the initial beginning lessons, as well as those preliminary final challenges. And then in addition to that, on November 16th is when we're going to reveal that final group stage mission. So that's when you'll be able to see that mission. You'll be able to look at that, kind of strategize, determine what code you want to write. You're going to have from the 16th to the 27th, that's about 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks, to write your code for that final challenge. And then your last date of submission is on the 27th. Keep in mind that that is the US Thanksgiving break during that week. So your students may not be working from the classrooms, may not be working from school. So if your students don't have internet access at home, make sure they have their final code submitted by Tuesday or Wednesday before that week ends for your school. So that is uploaded, and there is a final version once they progress into that group stage. Our next important date is November 30th. That's when those group stage games will be broadcast. Those are going to be live on Twitch, and we will release a schedule as to when your teams are going to be playing and who you're going to be playing against in your groups. And then on December 1st, or I guess after that playoffs, we're going to take the top 2 teams in each group, and those will advance to the playoff stage. That's going to be the top 32 teams in your region out of 64. You go on to face off against each other in a playoff rounds. That's going to be on December, I guess that's when you advance is December 1st, and you can write your code until December 4th. From December 4th, that's when those playoffs will begin. And then again, teams will advance to kind of next stages, and all of the details. I don't want to kind of overwhelm you with dates that I'm sure everybody's jotting this down and taking notes here. So all that is on the schedule page on the CoderZ League website. I do want to note that we have, our team has come up with regions. So we have defined each one of the states and put you guys into a region if you're a US state. There's also a global region or various international regions that we've come up with. So we'll email that out to you with our next announcement. With what region you're going to be in, how that's going to be calculated. So we're excited to announce that, and then our team will start working on our scoreboards and leaderboards and kind of divvying you up into those regions, so you'll know which schools and which regions you guys are in.
Great, a lot of information just thrown out there. It is available on CoderZLeague.com. It will be reinforced in our communications this week and once the Learning Center opens up. Folks, we're at 15 minutes past the hour, and I know there is a lot more learning to happen, but we're going to call it a day for now so our team can get back to finalizing all the amazing bells and whistles that are part of this competition. If you had specific questions, you just keep us posted on what you need. You can access our support form at CoderZLeague.com/contact us. If you have flagged a specific need inside this webinar, we have taken note and elevated up to support. So if you have a ticket that has yet to be resolved, we are on it, and we will also go through each of the questions that we didn't get to and we will follow up directly. So with that said, Yossi, Trevor, thank you so much. Appreciate you making yourselves available during this preseason. And we thank everyone here for attending, and we're really excited about the competition coming up. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all you do for your kids, and may the code be with you. Thanks, everybody.